Good evening, everyone. We'll be starting in exactly 5 minutes. If there's anyone out in the hallway, if you could let them know the same, I would appreciate it. Good evening, everyone. Hello and welcome to Decision 2026, the Hickman County Mayoral Debate hosted by your East Hickman Volunteer Fire Department. I'm Kevin Baxter, Chief of East Fire, and I'd like to start by recognizing just a few of the selfless, dedicated volunteers of my department that serve and protect this great community. You guys would stand up. Please offer them a round of applause. You got the best team a fella could ask for. I also want to say a big thanks to Sheriff Kraft back there in the back and all of his deputies for being here and the tireless service that they also put into this community. They help us too. Thank you, guys. I also want to take a minute to thank those of you who donated to our department, not only tonight, but as you've done in the past. Those donations help us be successful in our mission to protect this community. So thank you. Next, thank you to all of you who have chosen to attend and are watching live. And of course, the candidates who are appearing tonight. Please offer them and yourselves a round of applause. I only became aware of who the moderator is for this event about 4 hours ago. And I have the privilege of introducing him now that I know how to pronounce his last name correctly. After the introduction, I will pass the torch to him so he can explain the rules for tonight's debate. I present Josh Copley. Josh is 23 years old. He spent 20 of those years in Hickman County. He is the son of Ken and Mary Copley and older brother of Emily. He graduated from Hickman County High School in 2020 and Freed-Hardeman University in 2024. Josh is currently the sports director for the local radio station WNKX, and you may have heard his voice commentating through high school athletics. He also serves as the associate minister at the Fairfield Church of Christ. Mr. Copley, thank you for being here as well, sir, and I hand the stage to you.
Good evening, Hickman County, and welcome to Decision 2026, our county mayoral debate. I'm Josh Copley, serving as your independent moderator this evening, and we are broadcasting live on WNKX and streaming directly from the East Hickman High School auditorium. Now, as some of you might know or might have heard about WNKX, our radio tower of over 50 years collapsed. So we have been off the air for a few weeks now, and we're trying so hard to repair that. But it's through events like this that we are still able to serve this wonderful county. And it is my privilege and my honor to represent WNKX and the citizens of Hickman County for tonight's mayoral debate. And as was mentioned earlier by Mr. Baxter, tonight's event is proudly hosted by your East Hickman Volunteer Fire Department. We want to extend a massive thank you to the Chief, Kevin Baxter, and all the volunteer firefighters for organizing this event. Now, as you also might have noticed, to attend this event as well as to watch it online, it is completely free. So think about this. Before you leave the auditorium tonight, please look for our firefighters at the doors. They will be passing the boot to raise funds for life-saving equipment. So please give what you can to support the men and women who serve us. We also want to recognize and thank our primary sponsor for this evening's debate, the Meriwether-Lewis Electric Cooperative. MLEC is proud to power this community, this broadcast, and this debate because every moment matters. So please give a round of applause to MLEC. Now tonight, we have our 4 mayoral candidates, which are seated to my left up here on the stage. And before we begin, I think it's important that we establish the ground rules. Each candidate will have 2 minutes for an opening statement. After that, we'll move into the Q&A segment. The questions tonight were submitted by you, the public, and have been kept entirely confidential. They cover 5 critical topics: our budget and schools, public safety, infrastructure, economic development, and the future of our children. Candidates will have exactly 90 seconds to answer each question. If a candidate is directly referenced by an opponent, I may grant a 30-second rebuttal window. Finally, we will conclude with a 2-minute closing statement by each of the 4 candidates. Now, to the candidates, I say this: please adhere strictly to the time limits and do not speak over one another, or your microphone will be cut. We want to keep this as cordial, as respectful as we possibly can, but as we know, with debates, disagreements and disputes are a natural part of it. And to our audience here in the auditorium, we please ask to ensure that we hear as much from the candidates as possible, that you please hold all applause and all reactions until the very end of the evening. So now I believe it's time that we get started with our 2026 Hickman County mayoral debate. Now backstage, About an hour or so ago, we drew lots for the speaking order, and Chris Chilton, you have the floor for your 2-minute opening statement.
Thank you, Josh. I just want to say I appreciate the opportunity to be here tonight. Thank Chief Baxter and all those people for helping put this on, and Casey, you as well, Josh. I'm thankful for the opportunity to be able to introduce myself to some of you that may not know me, as I'm sure there's a lot of you that don't. But to know me, I got to tell you what I believe in. I got to tell you where my heart is. And so I want you to know first and foremost that I believe in the Almighty, my God and Father, Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, and His Word, that it's absolute truth. I believe in my family, not just my wife and my children and my mother and my brother, all the blood kin like that, but for all my friends that I consider just as close as family. My church family, my work family. This is where my heart is as well. It belongs to God, and it belongs to all the people that I love, the people that make me a better person. Because without them, I wouldn't be the man that I am today, and I wouldn't be here in front of you seeking this chance to be the Hickman County Mayor. I also believe in the American soldier, because without him, Jesus died for our sins. The American soldier has died for our freedoms and our liberties. So there's no one braver than that. No offense, police officers. But so just know that I appreciate the service of all those that have served. Hickman County and the communities in it also have my heart, and all the people there. And my goal is to be able to work with these communities, work with these people, work with you to help listen to your voices and help solve our problems together. I appreciate y'all being here tonight and taking the time to listen.
Thank you, Chris. The second candidate this evening to give their 2-minute opening statement, Terry Christie.
Hi, you guys. I'm Terry Christie. I'm a paralegal, a marketing director, and a businesswoman. And I'm also a ship's captain, which is kind of unusual for a person of my gender. Anyway, I was jotting down notes, if you didn't notice, because I wanted to be able to say what I wanted to say and not forget my name when I stood up here. I'm the proud mother of 2 graduates of this very high school. Hickman County's public schools are a blessing, and we need to take care of them. I see parents, though, of our students leaving before daylight and getting home after dark. Hickman County, I see you. I was that parent, too. I see young folks wondering how they can begin to build a life in this place that they call home under the current structures. And seniors that are living on fixed incomes, scared to death of the next property tax bill. I see volunteers carrying very heavy loads, and thank God for them. And I see a lot of citizens of every race and economic status terrified about our taxes and our lack of a sales tax revenue base. And let's talk about property rights. 250 years ago, this nation fought a revolution over property rights, taxation without representation, and a government that did not represent its people. And zoning and codes. Zoning and codes are supposed to be to protect people, a public safety position, not violate rights, pick winners, and do favors for well-connected friends. I'm not running to become somebody. I already am, and so are every one of you.
Thank you, Ms. Christie. Your time is up.
Thank you.
Now, the third candidate this evening to give their 2-minute opening statement, Mark Qualls.
Thank you. I just want to reiterate, Chief Baxter and Josh and Kicks 96 and the school administration for allowing us to do this. I don't know if we could have had it anywhere else, but thank you. So my opening, what I want to talk about is why I'm running. So some of you may or may not know, but if you followed me for a while, over 10 years ago, I started to try to bring transparency and some kind of accountability to our local government. And so what I had to do, my only option really at the time was I live streamed on Concerned Citizens, which Facebook killed all the live streams, so you can't find them anymore. But that was the first option to be able to give to the public the decisions that are being made, because I really feel like that the local government will make better decisions if we know what they're doing. And I really believe that. So 3 to 4 years ago, we decided to move back home. My intent was to start a business and hoping my son could help with the ball team to go to state, which we did accomplish that twice. And during that time, we gave away $4.2 million of East infrastructure to Centerville. And my frustration, my wife asked me, she goes, "What are you going to do, run for mayor again?" And I was like, "No, but I may run for highway superintendent and fix this pothole," because we were pulling out of the driveway. I had no intent running for mayor. And then the Pinewood EMS started happening. And I had some insight of the beginnings of that. And I'm like, what in the world? And so finally I broke and I said, enough is enough. And that's why I'm running. So yes, my main agenda is transparency and accountability. That's a fact. And that's what I plan on doing. And I believe we need to go in a different course. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Qualls. The final candidate to give their 2-minute opening statement, Robert Atkinson.
Good evening. Naturally, I want to thank the East Fire Department for doing this, but I want to thank everybody that took the time to come out here tonight. I'm running for mayor, and I think some people will believe this because I truly care. I know there's people that don't believe that. I have made some mistakes, yes. Have I learned from them? Yes. Will I make more? Yes. I'm human. But I truly think I can do a very good job as the mayor of Hickman County because I know the county, I know the infrastructure, and we pretty much have got to start from the starting line to bring in sales tax and things. But I think all of these candidates sitting up here are stepping out and doing this for what we have to go through and trying to get the votes. I appreciate them and respect them for stepping out. But I know there'll be more said tonight through the questions. I just thank you very much for being here.
Thank you, Mr. Atkinson. And before we get into the first question of the evening, I want to give a very special thank you to our clock operator this evening, Hickman County Clerk Casey Dorton. And also, before we get into the first question, I do want to lay down just a ground rule or two more, just so we're all on the same page as we get into the meat and potatoes of this debate this evening. The candidates, as they come up one by one to answer these questions, they were given notepads so that they can jot down notes during the debate, but no pre-planned notes were allowed for this evening. So, as we said earlier, as we begin the questions for the evening, each candidate will have 90 seconds or a minute and a half to answer. We about good to go, Casey? So I want to, again, give a very special thank you to the East Hickman Volunteer Fire Department, who has sponsored. And you see some of those representatives around this very auditorium this evening. So if you see them, tell them thank you. We'd also like to thank MLEC, who is proud to power this community, this broadcast, and this debate because every moment matters. So now, while we prepare our technology for this first question, I'll go ahead and begin reading it. So candidates, ears open. So the first category of several tonight is county budget, taxation, and school system funding. Now, for the order to start, it'll go the same order as our opening statements with Chilton, Christie, Qualls, and Atkinson. And for question 2 and following, they will rotate through. So for question 2, it'll be 2, 3, 4, 1, so on and so forth. But the first question this evening, the growth pays for itself myth. Many pro-growth advocates claim that new development increases the tax base and ultimately benefits everyone. However, neighboring areas like Franklin and Fairview show us the opposite. Rapid growth demands massive new funding for schools, EMS, law enforcement, and infrastructure, which ultimately drives up property appraisals and taxes for existing citizens. As mayor, exactly how will you ensure that the financial burden of new services is placed on the developers creating the demand rather than resulting in tax hikes for the people who already live here? Our first candidate this evening, Chris Chilton. And the timer will begin upon Chris's first words.
Oh, hold on.
You may begin.
All right. So, yeah, growth doesn't necessarily pay for itself. Just like you said with Franklin, you can't spend your way to prosperity, but yes, sometimes you have to invest. And one of the best investments you can make is in yourself. So this county invested in itself, invested in its services and infrastructure is one of the best investments we can make. Invest in our children. Because growth doesn't come just on roads and infrastructure and services. We have to educate our kids as well. So how do we keep that from becoming a tax burden for everyone that's been living here for 50 years, 60 years, that live in a rural part of the county, not want to have to pay for the infrastructure cost here? We definitely have to keep the developers responsible for the majority as much as we can and still have sustainable growth and still have growth, because the people moving in here, people in Pleasantville, are not going to get the same benefit for those tax dollars as the people up here. But we have to be smart about the growth and the infrastructure, because like I said, you can't spend your way to prosperity.
Thank you, Mr. Chilton. Your time has elapsed. The second candidate to answer this first question, Terry Christie.
The growth pays for itself myth. Nothing pays for itself. We all pay for anything we have, our cars, our shoes, this pen in my hand. But as mayor, I'll work with the incoming county commission so that we can set down regulations that require subdivisions, developments that are larger than so much, to pay for their own infrastructure. If it needs to get to them, they need to foot that bill instead of being placed, like it always has been, on the backs of the people who already live here. The reality is, we live in America, and we can't stop people from moving here. But truly what's happening is we're running out our youth. Our young people cannot see a way forward to be able to stay in the place that they call home unless we get our county government under control and acting appropriately. We do need affordable housing for our young people. Over-regulating only brings in a highbrowed, very wealthy class of clientele, just like Williamson County did, that drives out the locals. So the mayor can't do this on our own, but along with the county commission, we can get the policies in place that makes growth pay for itself to make our community sustainable. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Christie. The third candidate to answer this first question, Mark Qualls.
Well, I already have a plan for this. So one thing that we desperately need is urban growth. So for an example, in order, our revenues, we have, their county revenues, we have, besides wheel tax, we have sales tax, we have property tax, and we have federal and state grants. Those are their only sources of revenue for our county. Well, number one, the state and federal grant, we don't even have a grant writer. The department heads have to kind of make their own grants or get assistance currently to even get a grant. And so unless we want property taxes to raise, we got to work on sales tax. So my plan is the land use plan has what's called an urban growth area, which is right here in East Hickman. And in that urban growth area, we should have what's called a comprehensive master plan. And so we know where the developments are going to lay, we know where the commercial is going to be, and we know where all the duplex and the housings are going to be. Like we will have a plan. And then yes, we have developers to pay for that infrastructure and corridors for those subdivisions. And if it's not prime for them now, I don't know when it will be, us being in the Nashville region, but that's exactly what I do. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Qualls. The fourth candidate to answer question number 1, Robert Atkinson.
I haven't seen where growth will pay for itself around it quite a while. And it's been said, I appreciate that. If a developer wants to do something, I'm a true believer, they foot the bill, entire bill. And that's Planning Commission, I think, is tightened down enough to watch that very close. A new house, you won't see any property taxes for it from the time it started and finished for close to 2 years or longer before that tax will start coming in. So we're out money from other taxpayers before that money's coming in. So we got to grow in a managed, practical, common sense way. We cannot continue to put the burden on a property tax. I couldn't agree more that sales tax is very good. I remember when the state made the law that the county gets the sales tax from the mail orders and the Amazon, and it's even probably triple now than what it was then, and how much difference it made in sales tax that came in that year. And that hit me to realize how important sales tax is. But we have to make sure that we're doing growth in a managed, practical, common sense way. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Atkinson. That concludes our first question for the evening. Now moving on to question number 2, financial reality and ethics. With Hickman County facing tight operational margins, protecting our remaining financial reserves is critical. Simultaneously, school enrollment has dropped by nearly 1,000 students over the last 2 decades, creating unique long-term funding challenges. The next mayor will face the immediate reality of balancing these structural vulnerabilities. While a mayor doesn't cast legislative votes, executive influence through introductions, appointments, and discussions shapes the county's financial trajectory for decades. Now, this question will be a 2-parter, and you will have your 1.5 minutes to answer both parts. Part A, will you commit to supporting an independent citizen ethics committee comprised of outside professionals in law, finance, and public administration with zero ties to Hickman County to oversee your administration's interactions with investors and developers? Part B, will you publicly disclose prior to Election Day any investors, developers, or outside groups who have already expressed interest in doing business in Hickman County through you? The first candidate to answer this question, Terry Christie.
I really like the lead into that question because I've already made it very clear on social media. Many people already know that I plan to bring in that type of a committee. I also intend to go quite a bit further. Something that our county should have been doing for a very long time and has not been is also bringing in interns from universities here in Tennessee and majors in different skill sets to help us study and prepare. But absolutely, I've already said I want a mayor's advisory council, And if someone brought this up as a question, obviously proposed, and I think it's very important because government should not be happening in a vacuum or behind closed doors. Transparency is everything. And to publicly disclose, absolutely I'll disclose. I have no financial interest coming to me. Not that people haven't tried to get in touch with me over these things. It's that I refuse. I represent you. I'm not a real estate agent playing on land speculation. I'm not trying to turn East Hickman into a city that I can get wealthy off of. I'm trying to save our county for our citizens, no matter who you are. And I think that's about all I've got to say about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Christie. Mark Qualls, the floor is yours.
Answer the question, it's yes and yes. Not really sure to expand on that, but when it comes to the schools and the budget, I mean, obviously we lean on them. Commissioners don't really have much to do with their budget besides approving it or not. And as far as any kind of committee though, especially, I feel like our economic development committee now, I think EMA should be involved. I think that somebody from the school board should be involved. Collectively, I think we need to be all at the table, and that's my answer. And ultimately, one thing that I feel like my job is to do is to take the power away from the established and give it back to the people so the people can really help make those decisions.
Thank you, Mr. Qualls. Robert Atkinson, you may take the podium.
Right. Have no problem with trying to form a committee like that. But we do have people in the county, I think, that's capable of doing that. And that's not necessarily elected people. There's people that can be appointed to that, and we definitely need it. It's a needed issue on anything that the government does, to have somebody from the outside looking in, help call mistakes and keep things in order. And then again, answering the question, yes, I would not have a problem at all with the ethics if it needed to be brought in from out of county, if that seems to be the best thing to do. But I do think we've got people capable of doing that in the county that would not be elected. I'm not talking about any elected.
Thank you, Mr. Atkinson. Chris Chilton, it is now your time to answer question number 2.
Read part A again.
Yes. Part A, will you commit to supporting an independent citizen ethics committee comprised of outside professionals in law, finance, and public administration with zero ties to Hickman County to oversee your administration's interactions with investors and developers?
I want to say yes, but with zero ties to Hickman County, I'm not sure I would say yes, because who more involved and interested should be in Hickman County than the people of Hickman County? And if we do decide to form a committee like that, it should take legislative action so it actually has teeth and can accomplish what it's set up to do. So you have to get everyone on board with that, not just the mayor, department heads, services, citizens. So I would say, yes, I would support it, but it needs to be well thought out and planned and given some teeth so that if needed, it can accomplish what it needs to. And yes, I'm perfectly good with disclosing whatever, whenever. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chilton. Now it is time for question number 3, outside investors and impact fees. Again, question 3, outside investors and impact fees. With outside real estate investors increasingly targeting Hickman County, some citizens have suggested a pied-à-terre tax, or in other words, a specific tax on people who own property here but do not live here. While creating new property tax classifications would require action from the state legislator, the core concern remains. As mayor, what specific financial mechanisms or impacting fees will you champion to ensure that outside investors pay their fair share rather than shifting the financial burden of our county's growth onto the backs of full-time residents? Mark Qualls, you will be the first to answer this question.
I mean, I wish I had some time to think about that question. You know, I don't want to step on people's property rights, you know, just because they own some land and lived outside the county, they're not using any of our services. But, you know, I think it goes back to the property assessor. I think the property assessor needs to make those adjustments. You know, I'd be fine with that. But it would definitely need to be something that the full commission would need to approve. That's just my thoughts.
Thank you, Mr. Qualls. Robert Atkinson, you may now take the podium.
Or as someone owning property that doesn't live here, I don't think our assessor of properties would be any unfair to them in any way. It was some time back that it was in a lot of these big companies owning our timberland. And our property assessor at that time had the nerve to stand up, and he fought hard. They're paying a lot more taxes now due to what he done. I think that it's just fair assessments, and I think our property assessor would take care of that to where I don't think it'd be fair to, if someone had 10 acres at this location and they lived here paying $1,500, and just because you didn't live here and you had that 10 acres to pay $3,000. But we do have an adequate facilities tax, and most counties call it an impact fee. Our people, whether they did it by luck or not, in 2002, called it a tax. You cannot get out of paying it. Impact fees can be beat, but it also has to be sent to the state to change. Brings in a lot of money. The adequate facilities tax, it's a minimum $1,500 when that home is built. That's the least they'll be paying. So I think the assessments, I would want to leave up to our property assessor.
Thank you, Mr. Atkinson. Chris Chilton, you may now take the podium.
So we want to grow. We need people to invest in this county. They may not live here. Should they pay more than us? Should I pay more for, if I don't own property in Dixon County, should I pay more for property in Dixon County? If the state says that the county can do it, and we can do it, and it's not unreasonable, and it can generate some tax money, I'm not opposed to it. I'm not sure that it was something that I would actually champion. Like Robert says, the assessor does his job. There's people that know what they're doing. They know what people should be paying in taxes. And the state has such a large role in that I'm not sure, like it was said, we don't want to step on people's property rights, whether they live here or whether they don't. So we have to protect Hickman County. So, no, I don't know if I can champion it, but I'm open to suggestions, trying to find what's best for the county.
Thank you, Mr. Chilton. Terry Christie, you may now answer the question.
I have a little bit of an issue with some of the beginnings leading into that question, because some of it's frankly unconstitutional. To tax the people more on the same or equal style of property is just not something that we can do here. So that's out the window. But impact fees to licensed developers contractor builders is a valid thing. But we also need to balance our citizens' property rights that must be respected. We have many citizens here with skills to build their own homes. Homes built on family land should be exempt from impact fees. We shouldn't be running out our people to bring in a higher class of clientele. And also, small-scale development on family land, it's not the same as PUDs or those famous 15-minute cities you see all over Nashville right now. Our local people should not ever be regulated out of being able to build a life in the place that we call home. So we have to be very cautious with how we tread with this, but impact fees are absolutely an option to large-scale development or builder developers, even on smaller scale, but family land must be protected. Children who graduate from on this stage right here that want to build a house in the next few years shouldn't have the same structure, same hurdles and expenses that a large-scale developer does. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Christie. And that concludes Category 1 of our 2026 mayoral debate. We now move into Category 2, Public Safety, Law Enforcement, and First Responder Budgets. Our first question of Category 2 regards the Pinewood EMS station. Now, regarding the recent alterations to the hours of the new Pinewood EMS station, as it's been reduced down to a 12-hour shift instead of a 24-hour shift, what specific investigations or audits will your administration initiate to address public concerns over potential conflicts of interest and the alleged mismanagement of the $1.2 million in county funds used to purchase and remodel the facility? Robert Atkinson, the podium is yours.
Or I could listen to some other answers. I know I've heard that topic a lot going across this county. There have been an investigation into that. I haven't seen it. I don't know what it says. I haven't been in the building since it was purchased. And people can look at me and say, well, you were in the codes office, but it was turned over to the fire marshal. It's been a problem. It really has. But we need now that we have it, and that area has proved that it's the largest call area. We need to finish it. It's going to cost a little more, but we're too far in. We can't get what we got in it out. We need to finish it in the way it needs to be done. And number one is going to be a sprinkler system. I'm sure some people are going to argue with me that, but that's the simple answer to that building. And far as the question in addressing the law of safety and EMS, our sheriff does a great job. If I am fortunate enough to get elected as mayor, my first meeting with a director will be EMS. They need help. Because I want the best if I need them. If I'm having a heart attack or a stroke when time counts.
Thank you, Mr. Atkinson. Chris Chilton, it is your time to answer the question.
Been a lot of information put out about the EMS building, how much it costs, how much has been spent on it. Accurate? Yes. Where that money came from? Local county dollars? All of it? Not accurate. There's been investigations. As far as I know, there's been no wrongdoing. So going forward, my administration will be like Robert said. We would make the best of the building that we have. We would get it finished. Work with commissioners, work with the EMS directors so we can get it staffed. Because right now we don't have the money in the budget to hire the extra staff to fund it, to staff it full time. So there's a lot of things that would go into getting that building up and going the way that it was designed to. So, but you you got to be willing to listen and being willing to work with the people that are trying to make the best of that situation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chilton. Terry Christie.
We're already over the 1.2 million mark, and the costs are still rising. As mayor, I will absolutely look closely into what happened. And I believe most of you agree with me that we should have purchased an acre of ground, had Summertown Metals put us up a building that fit the codes at a much less expense. The truth is, we're not going to get that money back, and we're going to keep spending on it. But we should never again let citizens be hosed this way, and I plan to do something to keep that from happening. Incompetence in our county government seems to be the biggest issue. I can tell you as a paralegal, I am very familiar with navigating bureaucratic red tape and regulations. Incompetence allows things like this to happen. I'm not saying that's mean about a person. I'm just saying you're not capable of doing the job. And self-serving, there may be some of that. I don't know, but I do plan on looking into it, because the way we keep repeating the same problems is we keep turning blind eyes to it, and that needs to end, and I plan to bring an end to that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Christie. Mark Qualls, it's your time to answer the question.
You know, I try to stop that from the very beginning. The commissioners know I spoke to them, try to get them to stop during the 90-day due diligence period. They didn't listen. I tried to get a commissioner offered somebody else to build one for $900,000, have a 1-year warranty on it. They refused to listen to him. And then we get to the point to where, you know, I'm screaming, January 4th, I've got two posts, January 4th of this year about the fire marshal. Nobody listened to me. And then what happens? Oh, the fire marshal. Do we need it? Yes. Was there so much incompetence? Yes. Was there an investigation? Yes. TBI investigated, not sure of the results. And you know, I understand it was COVID, ARPA funds for the 1.2 million, but we have spent at least 83,000 of our taxpayer money, and we're about to spend another 70 to 90,000 for the sprinkler system. And so that's at least 150,000, you know, so just because it's federal funds and it was given to us doesn't mean we should spend it like wildfire. But as far as the future investigation, you know, if I become mayor, I'm going to try to make amends and get along with people and do what's best for our county and its citizens. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Qualls. And that concludes Category 2, Public Safety, Law Enforcement, and First Responder budgets. Now we move into Category 3, Infrastructure, Roads, and Highway Department funding. The first question of Category 3, the infrastructure divide, and this relates to your first 100 days in office if you are to win the race. The question goes like this. Hickman County is currently facing a major divide. Some residents want aggressive economic growth, while others prefer we remain a quiet bedroom community. However, the reality is that our current infrastructure, specifically water supply, sewer capacity, and road conditions, is so far behind that even basic growth is severely restricted. As mayor, how exactly will you fund and address these critical deficits? Furthermore, rather than offering general promises to improve everything over time, please tell the voters which specific utility or infrastructure need will you prioritize as your absolute highest concern during your first 100 days in office. Chris Chilton, it starts with you.
When it comes to growth, we do need economic growth. We're not going to have economic growth without also residential growth. Two things on this earth, more than two things. There's two things that we can't live with that we have control over. That's water and food. So one of the first things we have to worry about infrastructure-wise is water. For growth, the other is going to be sewer because water and sewer go together. Do I have an answer for both of those? No, do not right now. But I am smart enough to know that we're not going to grow without addressing the infrastructure of both of those. We'll never be able to afford it, like in the earlier question. We're not going to be able to spend our way to prosperity, spending our own money, being able to try to put all that in. So there will have to be funds, considerable funds from outside sources, state and federal. But water is first and foremost. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chilton. Terry Christie, you may now take the podium.
I'm going to tell you guys a little secret. We live on the Highland Rim of the Hermitage Foundation. We have caves under Centerville and all over the county. Mammoth caves, hundreds and hundreds of miles still being surveyed that people can walk through. This is the Hermitage Foundation. It's the largest rock in the world. It's also limestone. There's something wonderful about limestone. It filters. Nothing is more pure. If you go down by Bon Aqua Acres or by the farm, you can get water coming out of the ground in a little tube, and it's the purest drinking water ever. All those people around that spring have septic systems. We live on the thickest part of the Highland Rim. And I'm telling you this because people keep saying city sewer, city sewer, city sewer. If you want to keep from having that urban compact development, an acre of ground and a septic system works just fine, because guess what happens to our septic? It filters down. Our topsoil is one thing. Once it hits that limestone, it might as well be distilled water. That's a little bit of science behind this, and I'm telling you this because I'm sick of people fear-mongering over that. But where wells don't work in all locations, especially in cavey scenarios. So we absolutely need to have
Thank you,
better
Ms.
water
Christie.
infrastructure.
That is all the time that you have for this question. Next up, Mark Qualls.
Actually, I do have a 100-day plan already in place. I hadn't shared it because I didn't want somebody copying it, so it'll be posted here during election time. So there's two main things there. A grant writer told me sometimes, Mark, I have to do a grant to get a grant. So if I have to get a grant for a grant writer, that's what I'm going to do. But the first 100 days, I'm going to have a full-time grant writer. That's all they do. Number two is that comprehensive master plan. It's going to take the economic development team. There's going to have to be some things in order. It may not be completed in 100 days, but we're definitely going to get a head start. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Qualls. Robert Atkinson.
I didn't take my walk this afternoon, getting it now. Our planning commission just worked on a growth plan. I think they finally come up with one that's fair. Don't agree with all of it, but I think they put a lot of hours, close to 2 years in that, trying to make sure the beauty of this county got protected. I am 110% behind protecting our agricultural property, our waterways. We've got some of the most beautiful places in this county. I want to keep seeing them, want my children to keep seeing them, want my grandchildren to see them, my great-grandchildren to see it. We do have a designated growth area. I think it's fair. We will need public sewer in it for it to grow, because there's businesses that cannot hook up by state law without having that. So if we want sales tax, we've got to start looking at that. We basically do not have that, period, right now. We don't. Dixon will not give you a hookup, period. Try it. You'll find out. They'll put them right across the county line, but they won't give us one. So we got to work on that. Not sure what the answer is. The first thing, I'd like to meet with Dixon to get that and find out exactly what we'd have to do to work with them. If we can't, we go on our own. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Atkinson. And that takes us to question number 6. And we've already touched on briefly about the water infrastructure, and this next question carries along that same thought as we think about protecting county water resources. Preserving our rural way of life depends entirely on protecting our natural resources, especially our water. We are increasingly seeing outside agencies, such as the Dickson County Water Authority, looking to tap into and extract our county's resources. As mayor, what is your specific strategy to protect the Duck River and our local water supply? And how exactly will you stand up to neighboring municipalities that try to take advantage of Hickman County? Terry Christie.
This is my favorite question so far. Listen, folks, there's some science I'm going to give you real quick. When you have city sewer, you also have holding facilities and treatment. And guess what happens no matter where you are? If you put city sewer in East, we will have holding facilities that treat that water and dump it into our creeks. There's no way around that. However, we should never take sewage from some other county. I am absolutely protectionist on that. I believe we can use septic systems. I think it was hogwash, the way they brought the sewer down, and our former mayor and commissioners did not protect our rights. And we paid for sewer that's going to the Natchez emergency room. We paid for that. We actually own the pipes in Dickson County. They get it and we can't. So I have a big problem with that, and we need to stop giving away our natural resources. We've got to protect our waterways. And if we put city sewer in East, Lick Creek will get sewage dumped in it. It'll be ours, and the truth is, if we're doing it ourselves, we're probably going to be more protectionist. When you bring sewer in from another county, they don't really give a hoot about us. They're just using us, and we're always getting the short end of the stick. So let's stop doing that. And you do that by electing people that put Hickman County first. Because Hickman County, I truly do see you.
Thank you, Ms. Christie. Mr. Qualls?
You know, to me, that was an issue that started a long time ago at East, where, you know, we had Dixon pretty much be our sewer boss, and can kind of determine of our growth if they want to give us a tap or not a tap. And, you know, I think it's going to be a problem. And so my idea is a little extreme, because I do believe we should grow smart, very smart. But one of my ideas is we have two different types of wheel tax. One goes to pay off this school in May 2029. The other one originated back in the 70s that goes into the general fund. I would like to have one of those wheel tax that doesn't increase your taxes because you already pay it, to go into infrastructure, into our urban growth area, for us to try to regain our own control and our own destiny in our most potential future growth area for the sales tax. And we got to figure out something out of the box like that to make that happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Qualls. Mr. Atkinson?
On the sewer issue, I'm all for us trying to do that on our own if there's a need there for it. There's drip systems. There's all kind of systems can be used now to take care of waste. We're going to have it. We got to deal with it. One issue we have on that same subject, where are we going to get the property? I don't see for sale signs. People don't want to sell along the areas in that. Mention Lick Creek. I would never go against those people. Those people have fought hard to not have that stuff dumped in their creek. and I will stand with them if I get unfortunate enough to be the mayor. Will not, on my part, would not allow it if it's my decision. But if we grow in our growth area for sales tax, we're gonna have to deal with sewer. This school was built on ground that will not perk. You can check the record. That's what started the sewer. Dixon brought it here. Our money, grant money, paid for the line. Dixon took it over. I'm not willing to give Dixon a pumping station in Hickman County, period.
Thank you, Mr. Atkinson. Mr. Chilton?
So the sewer issue is definitely taking center stage here tonight. Like Robert said, it's, if we can, we need to figure out how to do it ourselves. Feasibility, still got to put it somewhere, whether it's not Lick Creek, but it's got to go somewhere. If we want to actually grow in our urban growth area, we have to have sewer. We're not going to be able to get the density. If we don't get that density here, guess what's going to happen? It's going to spread out into the rest of Hickman County. You're going to lose exactly what it is that everybody says they want to keep. That rural way of life, that country charm. For a lot of people, it's not country charm. It is, in fact, life. The land they live on, land they were raised on. Protecting our waterways. When I was talking about water the last time, I wasn't just talking about increasing the amount of water we use, finding ways to do that. But it's actually, we have to work with the people and support the groups that are protecting the Duck River, protecting the Piney, protecting Lick Creek. Because if they don't have our support, they stand a good chance of not protecting us in this county. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chilton. Now, before we move on with category 4, I also want to remind everyone that tonight's event is proudly hosted by your East Hickman Volunteer Fire Department. And we want to extend a massive thank you to Chief Kevin Baxter and all the volunteer firefighters for organizing this event. And before you leave this evening, they're passing the boot to raise funds for life-saving equipment. So please give what you can to support the men and women who serve us. You can applaud. We would also like to thank Meriwether Lewis Electric and ML Connect. Meriwether Lewis, because every moment matters. Every day, Meriwether Lewis works to build a brighter, more connected future for our communities. To learn more about Meriwether Lewis and its services, you can visit www.mlec.com. And at this time, we're going to give you all a brief 10-minute intermission to collect yourselves, use the bathroom, get refreshed if you need, and we will return with the second half of the 2026 mayoral debate in 10 minutes sharp. Thank you. We have 45 seconds until the debate resumes. If all candidates could make their way back to the stage, and if all attendees could be finding their seats, please. The debate will resume in 30 seconds. Let me do a little write-up. Hey, it's buy one, get one. Boneless. It doesn't close till midnight. Is that a no? Let's go. Hey, going with us. Going with us. Again, all mayoral candidates, please report to the stage. So while we wait on our fourth candidate to make her way to the stage, I also want to give a very special thank you to State Rep Jody Barrett, who made an appearance here tonight at this mayoral debate. So thank you, Jody, for coming down here to East Hickman Auditorium for this event. And I also want to give a very special thank you to the four mayoral candidates for agreeing to do this evening. They have been doing a stellar job, and we're so thankful to have this event here tonight. And I also want to give a very special thank you to all of those that were involved working sound or lighting or any of the technology that allows this whole debate to run. It is not possible without you. There were several people that were here at 11 o'clock this morning to make sure that the live stream was set up and ready to go, that these microphones were ready to go, that these lights were ready to go. So again, give a round of applause for everybody who made this debate possible. And I guess it's hard to have a debate without all the candidates, right? So. And we will be entering category 4. And the order for this first question of category 4, it will begin with Mark Qualls, then go to Robert Atkinson, Chris Chilton, and then Terry Christie as a reminder for our order for this next question. So again, category 4 is economic development and managing rural growth. The first question for category 4 is about protecting a rural character versus subdivisions. Now, many residents are adamant that they want their children to inherit a community that still looks and feels like Hickman County, not Williamson, not Davidson, and not Rutherford. How will your administration promote economic opportunity and good-paying local jobs without allowing unchecked, large-scale residential development? Furthermore, if a major subdivision is proposed that increases tax revenue but strains our resources, where exactly do you draw the line, and will you require developers to front the full cost of road, water, and power improvements rather than passing that burden to our current taxpayers? Mark Qualls, you may now take the podium.
I'm all about the water and the land and keeping it and protecting it and all that good stuff. And I think that goes with the comprehensive master plan. You know, we keep it in the small urban growth area. That's where we develop. It's kind of easy to manage because you have a small sector of the county. And as far as subdivisions outside that urban growth area, will be very stringent. It needs to go through planning and zoning. Once planning and zoning approves, we'll go to the commission. I may have my own thoughts because, you know, we feel like that it's vital to keep all that protected. But at the same time, in the urban growth area, I feel like we need sales tax dollars and we need houses, but in a small confined area that we can easily control. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Qualls. Robert Atkinson.
We've covered this in some ways, but the planning commission has worked, again, very hard for the last 2 years to try to protect our, what we call A1 agricultural, rural areas. I'm a firm believer that that's got to be done. Sometimes it's going to be hard to have both. So I think with this plan, they plan to protect that rural area. Jobs, it's a big question, if we get those. I'm a firm believer that we get places like we've got on 46, where the man's already built 3 buildings and got 4 more lots. I'd rather see the smaller ones, as I had one working 500 to 1,000 people, because we don't have nothing to offer that kind of, those bigger places. We can possibly manage to where we can have the smaller places working 25 to 30. The development, there's a lot's got to fit in that small growth area. But again, like Mark has said, that's where the planning commission jobs come in. They've worked on the growth plan. Now I think they're going to have to work on the actual zoning book itself.
Thank you, Mr. Atkinson. Chris?
We all want what's better for our kids, right? We want their life to be easier, not necessarily, but we want what's best for our kids. Growth, it's got to be the right kind of growth. Like it's been said, it needs to be in a specified area. Keeping it in a certain area keeps your costs down on the infrastructure. Infrastructure that, like we answered in other questions tonight, that burden is placed on the developers, not the other property tax owners. I live on a farm. I raise cattle. They're not making any more land. Talk to the planning and zoning director now. He has some ideas that, like Robert said, they got to work on the zoning book now. He's got some ideas that could possibly help us keep some properties more rural, some more communities, more agricultural. But as a county as a whole, we all have to understand that what you want is not what somebody else wants. What's best for you is not what's always best for your neighbor. We have to learn that we work together to find out what's best for the county as a whole, especially our kids. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chilton. Ms. Christie?
Scale is a big issue. Small development and large development are not the same. In East Hickman, you can look at Beacon Light Estates. It's many acres, large lot sizes, on septic systems with city water. We need to upgrade our water infrastructure, and we need hydrants that will lower all of our homeowners insurance, by the way. So if for no other reason than it might save your life, think about that. But large-scale development must pay the full cost to our citizens to upgrade the infrastructure before they can come in. And here's a reality check for you. Growth is a natural component of life. If there is no growth, there is death. It appears some want to turn East Hickman into urban sprawl for Williamson County and real estate investment speculators. I don't agree that that has to be the ugly picture we need to paint for any portion of our county. We need to keep our culture alive here. But here's another reality check. We should have 4,000 more people than we did in the late 80s. and we have fewer than 1,000 more. That's based on birth and death rates of the people who are already here.
Thank you, Ms. Christie. Moving on to our second question of Category 4, Land Use and Special Interests. During the recent discussions on the county land use plan, over 500 residents participated in surveys and public meetings, with the clear majority favoring high acreage minimums in our rural preservation areas. Yet, a highly vocal minority successfully lobbied to change that plan. For all candidates, how will you handle situations where a well-organized, vocal minority opposes the desires of the broader public? Furthermore, how can voters be assured that your administration will serve the desires of the entire county rather than the financial interests of developers and the real estate industry? Robert Atkinson, you will kickstart this discussion.
I was still there when those meetings was going on. I disagreed with the 15 acre as well as I did minimum 5 acre. The reason I disagree with that, we got people that own 10 to 12 acres. They've got a child that needs an acre to build on. I wanted to make sure they could do that. I'm not talking about a big developer. I'm talking about a family wanting to give their child an acre of property. I don't want to see that right taken away from someone, because not everybody has 100, 200, 300 acres. But I still want to see that farm protected. But there's a lot more properties that are under those acreage than they are above them in Hickman County. We got to, in that, I've mentioned it twice, in that plan, I think they've done a great job for Hickman County. It's not a law. It's a plan for us to use. The zoning book will be what stands. We like to messed up on that once with the surf club, for those that are familiar with that. It would have been allowed with what was written in that book. That's why we couldn't stop it as quick as it was. So that's where when I say we got to look at the zoning book now, that's my point.
Thank you, Robert. Chris?
So we had meetings. They had meetings across the county. They had been several county commission meetings with public hearing or public speaking times for people to be able to speak on it. People have been able to express their opinions. That's what's great about this, is you can express your opinions. You can tell your elected officials what you want, what you need, what you think you need. I mean, you may not even know what you need, but we have the opportunity to express our desires to our elected officials on multiple occasions. Whether you're in the minority or the majority, you need to be active. Make sure your voice is heard. Whether it's in those surveys that they had across the county, whether it's at the county commission meetings, whether it's out here in the lobby. Don't be timid about what you think you need for your life, for your future here in Hickman County, especially for your kids' future. And we can always come up with a better plan as long as we're willing to work together. And when it comes to county government, there's very few things that I would say are non-negotiable, as long as they don't violate my faith. So I will listen and I will work with just about anyone on any project. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Terry?
Property rights matter. The pattern I'm noticing is that we regulate our children out of being able to build a life here in the place that they call home. I have under 3 acres. And the reality is, it's often more than I can take care of. I doubt anybody in this room, unless it's family land, started out with big acreage and a big house. We must stop regulating our children out of being able to build a life in the place they call home. And that's about all I'm going to say on the issue, because there's a lot of work I need to do as mayor to put an end to this practice of sending our people to Perry County or Lewis County, because we don't want your kind. I want our kind. Hickman County, I see you.
Thank you, Ms. Christie. Mark?
Josh, I'm going to have to disagree with your question, how it was formed. I don't think it was a majority. I think November 2024, when around the time they were having those meetings, I don't think there was a real public notice. I don't think that the county citizens really knew. There may be a small minority of them knew, especially the ones that were friends with the three-headed commissioners that makes those decisions. But I'm not sure we really knew. And whenever we did find out, and it was published and it did come to our attention, I tried to have them have a new public forum setting, and that was in 25. And that was over a year ago, year and a half ago. And they refused to do that, to get the new opinions from us that finally understand this, because it is a step on property rights. And that is my primary. And then also, Mr. Mayberry, Delton Mayberry, our last property assessor, was telling us how detrimental it was to the tax base. And so it's twofold. It's detrimental on your property rights, and the county is going to bring in less money because of it. To me, it's very simple. That's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Qualls. Moving on to the third question in category 4, and this is something that has raised a lot of eyes and has caused a lot of ears to perk up across the country, but it's about time we talk about this with our county here in Hickman, and that is data centers and citizen transparency. There has been significant public discussion recently, including concerns raised by the Hickman County Concerned citizens regarding the potential development of data centers in our county. What is your specific stance on allowing data centers to be built here? Furthermore, if elected, will you commit to complete transparency on this issue, ensuring that citizens are fully informed and have a direct voice or vote before any data centers are permitted in Hickman County, beginning with Chris Chilton?
If you've done any research on data centers, if you actually know people that live by data centers, chances are you are absolutely 100% opposed to data centers here in this county. As of right now, I'm 100% opposed to data centers here in this county. They require a lot of resources. They create a lot of noise pollution, light pollution, multiple things that are not just on their property. We do have to protect property rights. Sometimes we have to restrict property rights to protect our neighbors' property rights. It's a hard truth, but that's what it is. And if this data centers, they go back to one of the big things is water usage. We go back to the same thing we've been talking about half the night. You have to protect our resources. So I would listen to somebody talk about data centers, but I can see pretty much no situation where they're going to change my mind. So that's my stance on data centers, and especially that's my stance on data centers. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chilton. Terry Christie.
This is going to sound kind of funny, but the data isn't in yet. Data centers, the way they are currently made, do not fit us. They literally strip, they are mining the natural resources of the communities they are already in. But I'm not too foolish to recognize that in the future, they may have other ways of doing it that doesn't damage it. So I would never say never, But as they are currently formed, not here, not in my home. They make so much noise and they pollute so severely, or they actually, it's not so much the pollution as it is taking the resources, in our case, the water resources, in which we are rich. But they steal them. Look at the communities they've put them in and how it's damaged those communities. I don't want anything that's going to damage our communities or our people. Frankly, I believe they belong in places that are far, far away from human habitation. And ironically, we have a lot of those places in this country. Hickman County doesn't have anywhere that you can go miles before you see a home or a structure. There's lots of those places in Kansas and Oklahoma. Dig a well and put it there. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Christie. Mark Qualls.
I've answered this before a few times on Facebook. So I'm skeptical, and I mean, I can say I'm against data centers. Obviously, we don't have the water capacity. We don't have the infrastructure. We don't have infrastructure for our own commercial industrial businesses. Like we're pulling teeth just to get anything here. And so, yeah, I'm going to be against it, but I think we should listen. Like, I think we should listen to everybody. You know, maybe they have something to offer that we don't, maybe they're willing to build us our own sewer treatment plant. I don't know, but probably not. And I'm going to be skeptical. But one thing's for sure, that unless you want to be a one-term mayor, you better get approval from the citizens and be transparent as possible during this approval process. And that will be absolute if I'm your mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Qualls. Robert?
This is huge. I've done a lot of reading, had a good friend to send me some stuff. Data centers, I've heard it pronounced data. I don't like nothing I read about. I wouldn't even, the way they build them and choose to build them right now, wouldn't even want to have a conversation be coming into Hickman County. They could improve themselves in the way they do them. I read things where they put them way out in rural areas where there's more than double the stillborn calves from the vibration, the noise. And as the others have mentioned, they destroy the water. So there's nothing about a data center that I like, period. I wouldn't even want to have a conversation with them. But you depend on them every day. Carry your phones and all of that. But there's better places for them than destroying our rivers and our creeks. There's better places they could be put. That's all I have.
Thank you, Robert. I know data centers have been a huge topic of discussion, especially amongst younger people as we continue on about this technological age. So I appreciate all four of your answers regarding that subject. But now we move into category 5, which is the future of our children, including parks and rec, business attraction, and local jobs. The first question in this category, youth activities and grant funding realities. Many citizens are calling for more youth activities in Hickman County, specifically asking for a public pool, a splash pad, or a recreation center. Several candidates have even promised to deliver these exact facilities if elected. If you become mayor, what are the specific step-by-step actions you will take to get this done? Furthermore, rather than just promising to quote-unquote look for grants, can you tell the voters exactly which state or federal grant programs you plan to target? And crucially, how will the county fund the ongoing staffing, insurance, and maintenance of these facilities once the initial grant money runs out? Terry Christie, you're first up.
Well, here's a reality. Our children need activities. Here's another reality. We don't have the money. We don't have the sales tax base or the property tax base to be able to fund these things without getting outside help. But there's a few other ways of doing things. Not everything has to be a grant. And though I will be looking for grant opportunities for this, I also know that everything we do adds expense down the road. Just as he mentioned in phrasing the question, staffing, running, maintaining, and insuring. I think there's other ways to get some things done. I love the idea of a pool. I think Centerville, it's shameful. County funding should cease to the city of Centerville until they get that pool back open for those children. It's been there for decades, and to take away the one good summer activity they had in town is shameful. We also need some activities in other areas of the county. We are blessed. We've got rivers, we've got creeks, but not like when we were younger where you could go swim in a creek, nobody mind you crossing their land. We've got a lot of unsavory characters now too, so people have closed their land off. It's not like you can just go to the local swimming hole like we used to. So we do need a pool. We need a pool in East. And probably out in the Pinewood Nunley area, it might be a good idea to try to work with Hidden Valley Lakes to see if that could be turned into a public pool.
Thank you, Ms. Christie. Your time has elapsed. Mark Qualls.
Parks and Recreation has been a big deal to me for a long time. So even back in 2016, I remember being on the phone with Keith Nash about our hotel motel tax getting wasted in the general fund and telling me, if anybody proposes a resolution, we'll try to make it work with Parks and Recreation. And not too long ago, just a few years ago, I tried to spearhead getting that money out of the general fund and into Parks and Recreation. That's the hotel motel occupancy tax. It's supposed to be for parks, recreation, and tourism. That's what it's supposed to be for, but we weren't using it that way. And then I also spearheaded with the city to even collect the hotel motel tax for parks and recreation. And they've recently started doing that, thanks to Marcia and the chamber. So the hotel motel tax is how we're supposed to pay for a lot of this stuff. And it's not. I know it's getting used for other functions now. I know the chamber's using a certain percentage of it. But we're supposed to draw from that to help with our parks and recreation, and we don't do that. So as far as a pool or some high maintenance facility, we definitely have to do a smart plan and do an analysis on it and see if it works out. But I'm more than welcome to work with the city, to try to figure the pool situation out. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Qualls. Robert?
I honestly do not have a good answer for that. The motel tax, sales tax could very much help in that. I remember a conversation maybe a month and a half ago with one of the large RV park we have here. The month before I was there talking to them, they sent in over $14,000 that month before in their taxes. The hotel tax, I don't know whether it's large enough right now. I'm not going to put anybody on the spot and ask them to try to do things like that. Grants could get it started, but we've got to find money to keep it going because they got a lot of responsibility to swimming pools, parks, especially today. You get a lawsuit, doesn't take much to have that to happen. Insurance. I know how it is when people even put a pool in at their house and how they have to, things they need to make sure they tell their insurance company. So I really don't have a good answer to that. The hotel motel tax is a good tourism. I think needs a lot of work, and there's people that are working very hard on that now. Got some ideas on that, but I'm like Mark, I'm not going to share them because I don't want him to use them. That's a joke. I want to keep them to myself. But we could better that. And I think average person would be surprised to find out how much that brings in.
Thank you, Robert. Chris?
I keep bringing up our kids several times when I talk, answer questions tonight. A lot of people have pools at their house now. Even more don't. Yes, kids need something to do. County, there's a lot of needs in the county. So this is a hard one to answer because I have kids. And you know what? I spend a lot of time with them. We do things outside. They play sports. There's sports just about year round. Granted, it's not pools and splash pads, but there's a lot of stuff for kids to do in this county year round. Some of it may cost money. A lot of it's free. There's parks, got Beaver McCord, got River Park where the swimming pool used to be. There are things to do, but it definitely needs to be on the list of things that we need to address. But right now, we have a hard time adequately funding some of our essential services. So we definitely need to make our priority list. And I'm not saying put kids at the bottom of it, but we need to know the difference between wants and needs.
Thank you, Chris. We have one final moderated question this evening before we get into our closing statements. And we've spent a lot of this evening, whether it be overarching themes, whether it be blunt or whether it be subtle, talking about the future of our children and overall the youth of Hickman County. But now I want to take this debate in a different direction. Let's talk about our senior citizens. More specifically, the property tax freeze for seniors. Now, following this year's property reappraisal, many homeowners saw significant increases in their tax bills. Under Tennessee law, the state sets a baseline income limit for the senior property tax freeze program that gives counties the local option to adopt a significantly higher income threshold. Hickman County currently remains at the lower baseline limit, which prevents many seniors on fixed incomes from qualifying. If elected mayor, would you support adopting the higher income threshold to protect more seniors? And how would you offset that delayed revenue in the county budget, beginning with Mark Qualls?
I guess I don't really understand that question. I'm not familiar with senior citizens. Can you say it again?
Yes, I would gladly reread the question. It says, following this year's property reappraisal, many homeowners saw significant increases in their tax bills. Under Tennessee law, the state sets a baseline income limit for the senior property tax freeze program, but gives counties the local option to adopt a significantly higher income threshold. Hickman County currently remains at the lower baseline limit, which prevents many seniors on fixed incomes from qualifying. If elected mayor, would you support adopting the higher income threshold to protect more seniors? And how would you offset that delayed revenue in the county budget?
Okay, well, I definitely believe on the offset with the property assessor and the elderly. I mean, it feels up to me they wouldn't pay any sales property tax, but of course they have to. As far as the offset, that's income based. I mean, if that's what they decide and the commissioners decide, I mean, that's kind of on them and his future election. I'm not sure the mayor would really intervene with any of that. So that's my answer.
Thank you, Mark. Robert?
Very good question. Whoever sent that one in. I would be all for helping the seniors. I'm a senior. But I think that's a hard one, and I agree with Mark on this one. We do agree on some things. But that would be in the budget committee to make that decision, but wouldn't have an issue with it if they wanted. And I understand what they're saying, because there's a lot of people that can't get on it because of the income, and it might not amount to a lot of difference. in there in the income that doesn't give them that tax break. So that's probably something that should be looked at because our seniors need that. They need that help. Because income levels have changed when you retire and everything. So I would want to support it in any way I could if it's feasible to do that in the budget. What was the latter part?
The last part of the question, if elected mayor, would you support adopting the higher income threshold to protect more seniors? And how would you offset that delayed revenue in the county budget?
Still the same answer. I understood it right. Thank you. That would be the budget committee. And I think if anybody really are jumping a lot about your taxes, I encourage you to call the assessor's office and find out exactly what you would be paying. And I think it'd make you feel a little bit better. Some of it's going to be higher, some of it's possibly going to be lower.
Thank you, Robert. Chris?
When it comes to talking property tax freezes for seniors, there's different things that go into that. One thing you definitely got to make sure is that primary residents, we're not looking at property tax freezing large parcels of land for people, for senior citizens. Because if you do that, that offset that we're going to have as far as being able to make that up in the budget, that will increase drastically because as has been pointed out, you know, the people that live here a long time are the ones that have large tracts of land. So we have to protect not only the senior citizens, but the future generations from being burdened with extra debt, extra property taxes at the same time. The budget committee, going back to the first question, we got to be smarter with the money we spend. Not that budget committee, I thought was, there's always work to do, but I'm not knocking them. But every year we have to sharpen the pencil. And that's going to be one of the main ways, no matter what happens, that we're able to keep the property taxes and offset those deficiencies that we're going to have.
Thank you, Chris. Terry?
Social Security cost of living raises are not keeping up with the expenses that our seniors have to pay. And respecting our elders is a core American value. When we're driving people from their homes because they can't afford the taxes, that serves as a good old-fashioned land grab where real estate investors get to pick it up cheap because grandma can't afford it. I absolutely believe in offsetting primary residents' property taxes for our elderly. But we also have to, at the same time, create jobs. We need to bring in more tourism. We need to make our county say, we're open for business so that our local people can open a business without going through you're not my cousin. The good old boy club needs to stop and Hickman County needs to get back to where it used to be when it had factories and jobs and people who cared about their neighbors, including our elderly. I'm ready, willing, and able to get this done. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Christie. Of course, Hickman County consists of many citizens, both young and old, and it's important that we leave no stone unturned, especially when it comes to our local government. But now we have reached the end of our moderated questions, and now we will move on to our closing statements. And as agreed upon, we will proceed in the reverse order of our opening statements. And there was one question that we didn't have time for under the moderated portion, but I want the four candidates to be thinking about this as we move into our closing statements. The county mayor serves as the chief executive officer of county government. What experiences in your background have best prepared you to lead people, manage resources, and make decisions on behalf of all citizens in Hickman County? And furthermore, where do you see Hickman County in just 10 years' time? What are some actions that you would take to get us there, to lead us into the future? Just think about those things as we go into our closing statements. And much like the opening statements, you will have 2 minutes, and we will begin with Robert Atkinson.
To explain my experience, some people say have come in from another office. Some people have made some other statements. I've worked under 4 mayors. 2 of them I would consider very good mayors. All of them have been okay, but I've got my picks that I worked under. They seem to be more in contact with the directors. The second thing I would want to do as mayor, if I'm fortunate enough to be elected, I mentioned meeting with EMS. I'd want a meeting with every department head that I would have the oversight of as quick as possible. I would definitely want one with our economic development. That would be my second one after EMS. EMS needs some help, and that's why they would be the first. Be trying to get a plan put together. But then we need to start on economic. That's going to be, as I said earlier, managed, practical, common sense, but it will be a slow plan. One term would never get us where we would need to be with sales tax and things. That would just be the starting point. So it's going to take time to improve that because we are flat at the starting line. We're not anywhere in the marathon. We have pretty much nothing offered to us to help that in our growth area. So that would be one of the first things I'd want to be trying to work on, but it's not going to be overnight. It's going to take some time on that. But I do have a total of 18 years experience as a county commissioner and a director of an office there. So I understand what goes on. Government doesn't move fast. It's just, I understand the process, and I would appreciate you to consider me.
Thank you, Robert. Mark, you now have the podium.
Well, you ask what experience we have. I mean, I have a bachelor's degree in management and organizational development. I was a managing partner of Battleground Enterprises. I looked over overseeing 10 managers and 90 employees at once, which there's a lot of delegation aspect to that. But we turn around companies, and that's kind of what I do. One thing that I want to finish is, is the plan. My plan is we have the 4 sources of income. We have the wheel tax, the sales tax, property tax, and the state and federal grants. It's kind of simplified, the things that we need to work on. And to me, it seems easy, but I know it's not. In government, obviously there's hoops to get through. And that's, I feel like that I can accomplish that task. One thing that I want to follow up with is, I don't feel like anybody would outwork me. I know we've mentioned about the government moves slow and, we'll get there eventually. I feel like if I'm working 60, 80 hours a week, I feel like we're going to get it done. It may take longer. I don't know. Maybe there's committees we have to form, but my first 100 days, there's a plan in place. And it's to get the heads together, the departments, EMS, everyone. I don't want to leave anyone out. And I feel like it's very important. I know back in 2016, the East Hickman Volunteer Fire Department's got 5,000 a year. I know they get a lot more than that. And the year I did a fundraiser with Hell's Kitchen at 5-Star Retreat, we got over half that in one setting. And I want to be able to support these guys and do everything I can for the citizens. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Terry Christie, you may take your 2 minutes for your closing statement.
As a paralegal, my ability to navigate complex regulatory systems is unparalleled. As a marketing professional, my skills at presenting us, selling us to potential manufacturers is also unparalleled. I can show people all that we have to offer. As a businesswoman, I've had the blessing of living in some of the nation's greatest tourism economies, Mackinac Island, Michigan, if you're familiar with it. And we are missing out on tourism dollars. That tax revenue, the sales tax revenue, the small businesses, people opening them up to support their families, that supports our local people. We need to dig heavy into that. But we also need manufacturing. And my ex-father-in-law invented fiberglass rebar. I've been around manufacturing a little bit too, a little known secret. And as a ship's captain, I bring the ability to lead. Because when you're out in the Gulf, lives matter, your decisions matter. And I will bring that kind of steady leadership to Hickman County and put our people first, not real estate speculators trying to get rich quick, not crooked, and I'm sorry, I'll say it again, crooked, entrenched local politicians who do favors for their friends and shut everyone else out. Open, fair, transparent, and accountable government because it's owned by you. We own the government. It does not own us, and I will bring that to the mayor's office. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Christie. Chris Chilton, you may now take your 2 minutes to make your closing remarks.
Ready? Heard the questions. You've heard our answers. You've heard our statements. Don't stop right here. Follow up with your candidates, not just us, but your commissioner candidates, because as it's been said, they wield a lot of power. They control the purse strings. They control legislation. Follow up with those candidates because they are very important in the future of this county. Educate yourselves. What experience I have? I've worked in Hickman County all my life. I've worked at 2 different places, Park Container and the Button Plant. I can tell you this, the old saying, everybody's got a plan until you get punched in the mouth, however that saying goes, is true. I've been punched in the mouth before, multiple times. But we worked through it. You know why? Because we have a good team around us. My family, my coworkers. Young man sitting right there in the middle, Mr. Riley Reed, amazing young man. He gives me hope for the future of Hickman County. I'll be here in Hickman County. Park Container will still be here in Hickman County, no matter the outcome of this election, because I love Hickman County. I believe it's the best place for me and my family. Hands down, without a doubt. I love these people. I love this county. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. And thus concludes Decision 2026. I want to thank all 4 of our candidates this evening for stepping onto the stage, for keeping things respectful and cordial, and for sharing their vision for Hickman County tonight. Thank you to everyone here at East Hickman High School for being a part of this event, and to everyone tuning in via the live stream on WNKX, whether you be watching on YouTube, Facebook, or the Access Tennessee app available on Roku. A final special thank you to our hosts, the East Hickman Volunteer Fire Department. Give those guys one more round of applause. And as you leave here this evening, remember to drop something in the boot on your way out to show your support for those men and women. and to our sponsor, Meriwether Lewis Electric and ML Connect, because every moment matters. For more information about Meriwether Lewis and its services, visit www.mlec.com. I've been your moderator, Josh Copley, telling you to get out and vote, Hickman County. And until we meet again, I must bid you adieu, goodbye, and good night.